Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, to
Trapped Under
the podcast for the miniature hobby enthusiast.
Are we just doing strange voice day today?
Yeah, we could do that. It's like 50% English, but like all the words are just like halfway to what they should be enunciated as.
Yeah, you just blur them together.
Yeah.
Dang oh.
Yeah. We got some stories.
Oh, we got stories. We're going to just start right by the old campfire.
Yeah.
And just break out the can of beans and tell some stories.
Just settle in by the warmth of the fire while Uncle Scott and Grandpa John. All right. Okay. I haven't bought an army for a big miniature war game in over a decade.
Oh, boy.
Maybe even longer.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
Okay, let's think about this. The last one I actually actively purchased things for were Wood Elves. And there was a time when you and I were going to do an escalation league that you weren't a part of.
Mm-hmm. And then I started my own down here.
Yeah, like a skis.
Yeah, and then mine took off and yours was garbage and crashed and burned.
Mine never happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At that point, I did buy a Nomad Prince and a unit of Eternal Guard and Wild Riders, all three of which are painted now. That feels pretty good to say out loud. Okay, so I don't know if you consider that buying an army, but that was supplementing an army I had already had. When I think of buying an army, it's like, okay, I'm going to turn a new page and pick a new army and buy a bunch of models for it.
Yep.
And when I started Wood Elves, I was 12 years old.
Jesus.
So that was 16 years ago.
No wonder
I was 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there.
That Treant is like 17 pounds of pewter.
Dude. Yeah. No, that's when they first got remade into what they are now. That's when I started playing Wood Elves. It was a long time ago. And a long time ago, I also sold my vampire count army. And so I don't have a vampire count army, and I like vampires a lot, just like you do.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, we need to play vampires because I don't want to work on my Wood Elves right now. I want to wait to see what the old world is. And then the Wood Elves could maybe be the old world army, and then the vampires could be the Age of Sigmar army. So we'll see how that works out.
You didn't mention that to me, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because a lot of them are still on square bases.
Yeah.
So let's just keep them on there, base them up, they look nice.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start a new army. It was going to be vampires. I was like, John, how do I make a vampire list that includes Neferata? Because I love that model.
Yes. Amazing model. Pretty cool unit. Not super like broken strong, but she's pretty strong if you use her right.
Yeah.
So all the recipes.
Yes.
And she's a vampire.
Yes, and she's a vampire. And he had 3 words for me, and they were Legion of Blood.
Legion of Blood.
I was like, that's a good start. I like that name.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
And you're like, what does Legion of Blood do? And I say, it makes all your vampires and their dragons stronger.
Yes.
And those are all good things.
Yes. So his list was Neferata, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Good start. Prince Vordry on Zombie Dragon.
That's 3 for 3 on vampires.
That's 3 for 3 on vampires, baby.
Yeah.
20 chain rasps.
Yeah.
Why the rasps?
Okay, because chain rasps have a 5-up save.
Yeah.
Which is not great, but they're immune to rend.
Yes, that is nice.
And 20 of them are very hard to kill just because you got to chomp through a lot of no rend taking little bastards.
Yeah.
And they're cheap in terms of points. They're
They
like
also have
80
6
points
inch,
for 10.
6-inch movement too, don't they?
Yeah, which is 2 inches more than skeletons or zombies.
Right.
What they're used for in this army are basically they're going to hold an objective that it's going to be a pain in the ass to get them off of. If they are gotten off of it, that means they had to commit a fair amount of resources to kill them. And if they're doing that, that means your vampires are running amok somewhere else.
Slaughtering people.
Yes.
Drinking blood.
Just murdering. The other nice thing is that with 20 of them, you can kind of string them along to really mess with stuff. Let's say you're worried that they're going to come in and charge on you, like turn 1 with those big ogres on the mammoths, or a orc on top of a cabbage that have a big alpha strike that can just crash right into you and mess up your world. Well, in those games, you just string a unit of 20 ghosts in front of all your vampires and be like, all right, come on in, Cabbage Man, because you got to go through all of these ghosts first. And whether or not they kill them, suddenly now your vampires get to go. and they're the ones getting eaten. So
yes, you said vampires, and there are more than just 3 vampires.
oh, more.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, the boring stuff. 2 units of 5 direwolves for screening.
Direwolves. Yep.
Great. They're fast, and they can protect certain things from charges and whatnot, and kind of hold people in place to then get the hammer. They're kind of like the temporary anvil to the hammer.
Yep.
And the hammer is 2 fatty units of 5 blood knights.
Yeah, these are badass vampires on steeds. And the age-old quandary with blood knights is the models.
$90 per 5.
Yeah, if you can even get them. Well, I think their box price is $110. So you could probably, if you can find them, you could get them as cheap as possibly $90 for 5. And they're all in fine cast.
Yeah, and they look a little weird.
Yeah, they don't look bad, but they don't look great.
The Castellan, the leader of the unit, looks okay. Mm-hmm. That mid guy who's kind of like has his horse rearing up.
Yes,
that guy looks cool. But yeah, some of them, their helmets look a little goofy, and they look a little goofy. But I thought, doesn't GW sell this on their website?
I don't know if they still have them up there or not.
Oh, okay.
I'll look it up while you tell me what you actually chose to do with your Blood Knights.
Okay, so I have a video coming out. I have no idea when, but about the topic of how conversion can save you money in this case.
True.
Quite a bit of money, and also end up with a better looking end product. So it's like a 3-stage thing. One, you kind of you develop your goals for what you want to do. Okay, you want to save money, you want them to look cool, and then you go and try to find and source your bits. Like where am I going to pull from to make these vampires on steeds? So you look through the catalog of stuff that GW has, maybe other content, other people that make miniatures have, and you find, a horse that you like, you find legs that you like, a torso that you like, and a head that you like, and maybe lances that you like because they have death lances, and maybe shields that you like. And you kind of piece all these things together from maybe different kits to make the ultimate Blood Knight vampire. And I don't want to spoil exactly what bits I'm using yet, but in my brief looking on the internet at what people use for Blood Knights, I haven't seen people use the ones that I'm going to, which is hard to believe because it seems like a pretty obvious choice. Have you seen this?
I have not seen your choice of riders. Yes. I have seen your choice of mounts.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I agree.
But I think the combo, in theory, you haven't shown me a finished one yet for my official John seal of approval.
Okay.
But it's a great combo in theory.
In theory, on paper. Okay, so I'm super excited to do this. It's going to have some green stuff work. I've been looking up tutorials about how to make really good green stuff chainmail. So I'm excited because, I can spoil one detail. I read a book that had Neferata's personal Blood Knight guard in it. And one detail that just kind of slipped my mind until I was smacked in the face by it was that there are female Blood Knights.
Oh.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
So I have a few choice ideas for some female Blood Knights. It's difficult because there aren't many females in the GW range that are in full plate mail.
Yes.
So I have a few ways to work around that. It may involve a little bit of sculpting on the forearms for some additional armor and whatnot. But yeah, the only full-plated females are Stormcast Eternal, and those ladies are thick.
Yeah.
They're big.
They're chunky. Yeah, that's for sure.
They wouldn't really meld well with the rest of the mounts that I plan to use.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could take those Stormcasts that are on like the Thundercat things, like the hairless cats, Stormcast riders.
Yeah.
This would not be probably a cost-saving alternative because I think those come in packs of 3. But those are
$90.
Yeah, they're probably $60 or something.
Yeah.
But those are badass looking. You could just put the nasty vampire head on them and paint the Stormcast armor like it's evil, dark, black, and brooding.
That'd be cool. It'd be worth looking at those again, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have been buying minis like I have never bought minis in quite a while. I buy things piecemeal. I buy like a display model here. 2 months later, I buy another display model.
Yeah.
I don't paint them. I just buy them.
You have them.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Shadespire Warbrand. It's only like 3 or 4 dudes.
Yeah.
And, paint one of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens. I paint one of them. So super excited about that. I've been trying to see like how little money I can spend. So I've been making posts in the local gaming Facebook group to see if anyone wants to, let go of their stuff at a discounted price or trade stuff for it. I buy a lot of things on eBay auctions, especially because that's the money. If you can wait it out and just kind of like bid a little bit higher than the guy who's going for it at the end, you can get some pretty good cheap stuff. So all in all, it is, I think, probably one of the least expensive armies I've ever purchased, just because of the route that I've taken.
Yeah, I mean, I could have built you a list with 80 chain rasps in it, and that would have jumped up the price pretty fast.
I would have said no.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have been vampires. So that's why I didn't pitch it to you, because I know you wouldn't have taken it.
I would say that I would run a Daughters of Cain list. I like those ladies a lot.
Yeah, but you know what a good Daughters of Cain looks like?
Like 60 of the basic troops.
Oh, 60. That's funny.
There's more?
Oh, yeah. You start at 80.
Of the basic?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Because that's how that army is good, is just those basic chicks. So it's a horde. You get Marathi in there, which feels like a badass thing, but you have like a Marathi, you got a hag on the cauldron, and then just a whole bunch of witches.
Yeah. That's lame.
So the research department is back with the findings from the Games Workshop website.
Oh.
Blood Knights are available. They have the little red arrow, which means they're only game on store exclusive.
Online exclusive. Yeah.
Meaning you can only get them through GW and only through GW's site.
Yeah.
And they are $99 dues.
$100. So the price to beat, ladies and gentlemen, is $200 for 10 of them.
Yes.
I think I can do that.
I think that's pretty fine.
So far, I've spent $0. I have 10 horses and 4 riders. Right. 5 if you consider a conversion I'm going to do.
Can I offer a smaller price to beat?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because I just bought 10 Cavalos Death Riders.
Some boner boys?
These are boners on horses.
OC Arch boners?
So they're boner riders. They ride the boners.
Okay.
And they're also boners.
Jesus Christ.
And for a box of 5 of them, MSRP is $60. Price
to beat $120.
So your price to beat for 10 is $120. I bought them. I put 5 together already. I got 5 more new inbox. So can you beat me out at the $120 mark? I didn't pay $120, but we're going on MSRP here.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's fair.
Sure,
I think I can do that.
I think I can beat that, yeah. I haven't yet bought a box of anything. It's been all just bit sourcing, bit trading, and bit gifting from the lovely Dan.
Yeah, well, if Dan the man gives you 10 horses for free, that's not fair.
Well, I traded him some bits. I fed him hot dogs from Portillo's.
Speaking of boner boys.
But yeah, we have a really kind friend, Dan, who is I like to call him a bit master. And he has a lot of bits that he just has hanging around, and he gave me 10 of my horses that I needed. So
yeah, what a gentleman.
That was quite a score.
Right.
But if Dan didn't exist, I did find 5 of the horses that I needed on eBay for $10.
Wow.
And I bought them, and then Dan was like, I have them, and I was like, okay, cancel. And then it was fine. But yeah, so I found the ones I needed, even without Daniel's grace. But excited about that. I'm excited to get him painted up. Want to do some kind of escalation league for him, because I always love doing escalation leagues with new things. That's how I got my Mortician guild painted up initially, was because of an escalation campaign with them.
I saw I got all the 48K models that I have painted.
Yeah.
All from escalation.
Yeah, exactly. They're
works.
Great things. I like them a lot. But yeah, I'm super hyped. Haven't bought a new army in a while.
The cool thing about the paint built-in aspect of the escalation league is that every time you play a game, you're playing with all painted models.
Yeah.
It starts off with a smaller game, and then before you know it, 3-4 months in, you're like, damn, this is like 1,000 points, and everything's still all painted.
Yeah.
And then you go back to a different game where you just play a 2,000 point and everything's gray. You're like, this isn't as cool. But then once you get like a majority of your force, let's say even you get to a full 2,000 painted, if you want to do a tweak to your list, suddenly it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Right, yeah.
To paint that. I'm just painting this one extra different unit or one different hero or a couple things different.
I would love to get to the point where it's just like, I don't know. I have what am I saying right now? I have like a core army painted up, and then I can just, add in a little bit extra flavor, put in a Coven Throne. Why not? Just for fun.
A little spicy.
Yeah, maybe some Vargeist, because bats are cool.
They're vampires.
Yeah, they're vampires-ish. But yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I bought everything in the list other than the dogs. Direwolves. But I also bought a Coven Throne. Because I found it for cheap.
Oops.
And I also bought Karl von Karstein, which is the crazy vampire with the cross swords above his head. And he's dripping the water into his mouth. The fucking blood.
Yeah. Water.
He's called the Vampire Lord now. I don't like that. That's Karl Manfred. Oh, sorry, that's Karl von Karsten. He's the crazy uncle. But
you could put some wings on him and he would count as a winged vampire lord.
There's such a thing as a winged vampire lord?
Yeah, right now the vampire lord has 2 free options. Doesn't cost you any more points. You have a regular vampire lord. You can have a winged vampire lord who his movement then increases to 10 inches and he can fly.
For no
more point cost.
Wow.
Or you can have the mounted vampire lord.
Oh, for increased wounds.
He's on a steed. No, he's the same amount of wounds.
Oh.
But his speed goes to 12 inches.
What?
And he gets a couple of free horsey attacks.
Okay.
I built the vampire lord on steed because I had him mounted on a Fenrisian wolf because he's just like...
He's got momentum to him.
Yeah. And like he's hunched over, and I green stuffed on like a loin. They have like the smaller tabards that's just down the loins, not through the whole body.
Yeah.
So I had the back of that like flying in the air behind him. He's got so much speed.
I love that.
And I used the vampire that's on the back of the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
Yeah.
I was able to find someone that was just selling that. Get that for $5.
That's glorious.
And I used him, so he's all hunched over the dog. And I built that, super happy with it. And then I see like everyone's like, no, actually wings are better. Just being able to fly over stuff to get out of the way or to deal with getting through combats that are happening is more valuable than having to like drive around them in your horse. So,
dude, screw what people say.
So I built both.
There you go. Where's the winged vampire? I've never seen him.
Oh, he's over in my box. He's not painted, but he's built.
He's got wings?
Yes.
Like, oh, is it the one out of the box that has wings?
No.
You converted it?
It's the guy from the Warhammer Quest box that he's an elf, and he's kind of like jumping, and he's got these big claw things.
I use that guy for my kill team Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
Squad. Yeah.
So I had that. I have him on like this edge of a rock cliff, and he's jumping off of it, and he's got big vampire wings come out of his back.
Okay, I haven't seen this. That sounds awesome. I also have mine jumping off of like a sewer pipe.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was, whatever.
It's
like
perfect for him coming off of something.
Oh, yeah.
That pose. All right, I'll show that to you later.
Sick.
So yeah, I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
About this. So you've got Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
Yeah.
And you've got Prince Vordry.
How am I going to differentiate?
Because for the folks that don't understand, they're both the same model. Prince Vordry is just the named vampire that rides also on a Zombie Dragon.
Yes.
So it's both vampires and Zombie Dragon. Did you buy 2 of those kits?
Yes.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
First of all, the one that I would want to do, and I have an extra kit of Neferata or Archon or Manfred. I have an extra kit of that. I want to take that dragon, pose it so it's sitting straight up, kind of like a seahorse. And I have giant Tyranid wings.
Okay.
That I got. And so I want to have it basically, like straight wings up like a bat, fully like vertical. And then I want the vampire standing proud on top of its head. Like it's not mounted. It's just standing there because it doesn't need a goddamn saddle.
Right, yeah. Because he's like an acrobatic king.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's an option, but you already bought this. But what you can do is with some tweaking and reforming, build the second one more like the Terrorgeist because they're the same kit, but they go together differently and they have different poses and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can just build it more like the Terrorgeist so it'll feel aesthetically different, but then you could still use a zombie dragon head.
Okay.
Or make some other tweaks to the head or something like that.
Okay.
I think
I don't really mind them looking similar. I'm just scared that putting like a artistic roadblock in the way is going to prevent me from ever putting it together.
Oh, yeah.
Because I got this huge Blood Knight conversion thing going on. It's like, I got to do that too?
True.
Why are you putting that on me, John?
Well, if you just build it like the Terrorgeist kit, you don't have to do a bunch of different things. The other thing you could do is you could build them both like zombie dragons. What I see a lot of people do is built onto their base, they build scenery like where the dragon is either crawling down off of a building
that's sick.
or climbing up like on top of spires and stuff.
That Garden of Moor kit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I got a bunch of extras of that if you need some bits.
You do?
So, because I have that kit, the double kit.
Oh, yeah.
It comes with 2 sets of the whole stinking graveyard.
Dude,
so,
yeah, if you got some, I might buy it from you.
yeah. So we're set.
We're set.
I already used some of that kit from my Resin Beast piece last year, so I feel like I've used some of it.
You tapped it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't need to like keep on double tapping.
Okay.
You know, so.
Okay. That was a long story.
That was a long story.
I'm excited about it, though.
About Age of Sigmar, and a lot of the listeners do not give a shit about Age of Sigmar. But I think there's some solid takeaways there, even if you don't care about that game, about finding stuff that excites you for your army or the game you play, or even a model you want to paint. Will you make it your own?
Yeah.
That there's some stuff there through the mental process of how do you go about figuring that out and doing your research before you just jump into buying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So in dealing with what you already have, I find that's a big thing. You're going to get to a point, you know, some of our folks have no bits box. Some of our folks have a bigger bits box and fit in their house, like, and everywhere in between. Like, looking at what you already have and then looking at everything you buy and extra parts on it that are extra bits are always good to revisit and see where inspiration strikes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. On to what we've painted in this past
I got a story too.
week. You have a story?
I got a story.
That's
kind
all right.
of a story. So my story is about how this mini painting hobby has made me a better homeowner. And I feel like this isn't the first time that I've had one of these revelations on this podcast. But so when I was finishing this basement, I was telling you earlier, I cut a bunch of holes in the ceiling of different rooms in my house.
Yeah.
Because there was supposedly an unused electrical line that ran somewhere from near the ceiling of my electrical box down to here in the basement, which one of the biggest hurdles in this project was getting that power line. It's just not simply as simple as just run a line through, because my house is multi-level, and so it'd have to go through areas that are blocked off by cement. And so I couldn't just run extra lines. So I'm like, okay, I got to find where that line is running, grab it, and then attach it. Perfect. Okay. Could not find it anywhere. So I'm like, I guess I just have to start cutting holes in my ceilings of the drywall.
By an electrician.
Yeah. And so I ended up cutting, I think, 6 holes in my ceiling. Long story short.
In your bathroom?
Only 1 in my bathroom, 5 in my utility/laundry room.
Okay, I was looking at the ceiling in your bathroom. I couldn't find a single spot where there was a hole. Am I just blind?
It's in the front corner.
Oh, okay. I snuck past it then. I could.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I so here's where the hobbyist comes in.
Okay.
So I was smart, and when I cut these holes in the drywall, I kept the pieces of drywall that I cut. So in theory, if I cut out a square, I have that square. I can just pop it back in.
Yep.
It's not as simple as that. You have to have supports that it adheres to have a flush surface. But where the hobbying comes in is I used joint compound and base making a lot. And joint compound is something that is typically used for homeowners to smooth out holes in your drywall or scratches in your whatever on your walls and stuff like that, or stucco. I use it to make bases. It's really kind of cool for that. And I found that when I thin it down for making bases, I can make like a slurry, and I can use that to smooth over areas of cork or bark, or make it look more like more natural, smooth rocks and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I put these pieces of drywall back in the ceiling, there's obviously a line all the way around. So I use my hobby slurry to then fill those gaps of that line to totally erase the fact that there was ever a cut piece of drywall. And I'm sure most folks are saying like, yeah, that's what those people do for that. That is the initial purpose. But that's not how I've been exposed to it. I've been exposed to it for making bases. And so it made me feel like, oh, I know how to do this from the hobby.
Yeah.
I can do it on my house.
Yeah, you were mentioning that when Jeremy was comparing his reverse experience.
Yes.
Or it's just like, these are all tools that I used in my previous contractor career that I'm now using for the hobby. It's the reverse for you.
I use all these things for the hobby, and now I can actually get stuff done in my house. So there's my little story. Did we want to have a real quick snippet with folks about our Los Angeles class?
Yeah, sure. So just to peel back the curtain a little bit, we film these things ahead of time. So we don't necessarily know what's happening at this stage with the coronavirus where we are filming from in the past. So we have a class in Burbank, in Los Angeles, California, mini painting class, 2 days long. It's set to take place in May 2nd and 3rd. But at the time of this recording, we don't know if that is going to change at some point in the future. So we know we're going to have a class. We just don't necessarily know when it's going to be. So you can check our site. It's linked in the description and in the show notes for this video to see when that class is going to end up being. It's likely going to be delayed to a later point in the future. But yeah, that's the behind the scenes about that and the decisions we have to make for that.
Yeah, and we're also looking at other venues. We have a bunch of other venues or cities, I should say, that we have on our radar that we're going to look to finalize classes in the near future as well as medium future.
Sure, yeah.
But not the far future.
No.
Of space
and time.
And there's only grimdark. Not there.
Yeah.
I just mixed a little Diet Dew in the remainder of my Diet Coke. I'm sure that's going to turn out just fine.
Yeah, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah, well. It turned it from like a brown soda to like a sepia soda.
Oh.
All right, so now everyone's up to date on that. Let's get a moving. What have we painted? Scott, in looking at the show notes, your what have we painted is blank. So I assume you painted something you want to talk about.
I always am painting something. Well, that's not true. Yes, I have been painting Drazar, a Dark Eldar Incubi God.
Incubi God.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been laboring over Drazar. I'm going for a Cabal of the Flayed Skull look, which is white and red. They have painted miniatures in the old Dark Eldar Codex, but they use kind of a cream white, and I didn't dig that. But earlier in the book, there's like a 2D illustration, and they use kind of more of a cold white.
Ooh.
So I went for that approach.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was kind of the same look as the Sisters of Battle that I did recently. But you can see this really interesting comparison where this is a white that I'm spending, I don't know, maybe 3 times as long on painting compared to the SOB one. If you look at the Sister Battle one closely, you can see that there are areas of imperfect blending where like the glaze kind of stained the white and didn't go on very nicely. So this one is more like I'm spending tons of time painting it and making sure all the blending is super smooth. I'm doing tedious things like glazing with very, very diluted versions of white, like probably 20 and 25 times to get that brightness to where it needs to be, but also get that smoothness to where it needs to be. So at the time of recording this, he's sitting right back there. I showed John earlier, and he gave me some feedback on it. Probably 60% of the white is done, and I haven't yet started working on the red. I also have some plans for some copper NMM, but that will be discussed in a future episode, by which point the model is hopefully done.
That would be really nice to just have it done, a showpiece that is just kind of like in the chamber.
Oh yeah. I know, right? Yeah, just a little.
Like, yeah, I'm ready to go guns a blazing.
Speaking of in the chamber, you got one in the chamber. Are you going to show up next year to Adepticon with 2 Resin B sentries?
I think you can. I think you can only enter one piece per category.
Yeah, so a different category.
I'm not doing a GD diorama.
That's the only one? Diorama and
there's
monster?
There's the little people, though, too.
The little people?
Yeah, there's not like a dwarf category, but like the regular 28 mil size models. And I do have their con exclusive from last year, so I have one of those.
Kind of the Damonette looking ones?
Yeah, Damonette looking one, and she's got a big like caterpillar that she's riding. I mean, it's like supposed to be like some evil worm, but I just think of it as like a little fat caterpillar. Like, doop, 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 doop. from the Bugs Life movie. Oh, I'm full of chocolate.
Oh, yeah, dude, that German caterpillar. Yeah.
I should paint it like that. Is an evil demon. Oh, please ride me.
Yeah, just take the piss. Do that. Yeah.
Take the piss. Look at us. Oh, man, we're so European.
I know. Well, I'm British,
Oh, right.
not European.
Oh, right. Ouch. Yeah, that's the first catch that you're not actually British. You call it European.
So yeah, that's what I've been painting. Drazar. It's getting done. Taking longer, but that's part of the plan. How about you, buddy?
Let's see. What have I been painting? Let me check their notes.
You can't remember.
I can't remember. I've been painting some D&D characters. I needed a little like palette cleanser, so to speak.
Sure.
Something fun, something I know is going to get use. We play our game every other Tuesday. I'm gonna see it on the table.
Tuesday.
Excuse me, Sunday. Why did I say Tuesday? Today's Tuesday. I don't know. Every day is today. That's an inspirational quote. So on one of those posters, there's just like the outline of a person, like arms raised to the sky during a sunset, and it says, "Every day is today."
Yeah, that's motivating me right now.
I know. Oh, gosh, it's so true though. Every day is today.
Yeah, it's a factual statement.
So I painted a little gnome sorceress. So it's hard to find female gnome sorcerai. So
Really? I can't imagine it's that hard.
yeah, you'd be surprised.
Okay.
Are
you leveraging the world of 3D printable models?
Not for this one. This one was actually for Christmas. A buddy of mine had backed a Kickstarter of all gnomes, and he's like, "I'm just never gonna get it." He's not a painter. His wife was thinking about getting into painting.
It's
but
a great way to start. Let me just back a whole Kickstarter of one type of model.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they're Kickstarter addicts. So
okay.
this is just the tip of that iceberg. So for Christmas, he just gave me all of them.
Oh, okay.
And there's probably 50 different gnomes, men and women and pets and familiars and all this stuff.
Pets?
Yeah. Yeah, like a badger. Or very small rocks.
So now you have 50 gnomes.
Yeah.
And then you're going to paint one of and
Well,
never paint ever again.
I painted one, then I can say I've done it. But the familiars and the pets and the little like fairy dragons and all these there's a lot of other cool little things in there.
Diorama additives.
Yeah, great little parts of nature.
Okay.
Everybody needs a badger to put somewhere in
Yeah,
a diorama.
A little Easter egg.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So painted her. We've turned to lately, I was telling you this, to Guild Ball for hard to find minis.
Yeah.
Especially when we're looking at things like alchemists and artificers, things that are not just your traditional like fightery, thiefy, roguey, wizardy things.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of those in Guild Ball for both men and women, because it feels like the teams in Guild Ball are split.
Yep.
Roughly 50-50 men and women.
Definitely.
So you can find a large variety. Most of them are kind of their makeup of their aesthetic feels like it fits in the fantasy world fairly well.
Definitely.
Most of them. So it makes me want to, one of my next characters for D&D needs to actually have been a butcher in his previous life. Then I can find one of the butcher characters.
Honestly, they're all awesome.
I know.
And the cook models are sick too.
Oh yeah.
That's the minor guild for the butchers, the cooks. They're good too.
Oh man, they should have modeled them all after famous celebrity chefs.
You said that, yeah. you said there should be a Gordon Ramsay
Yes.
mini,
right?
You told me that, and I thought that was how it worked out. So I saw the cooks at the source, and I was like, "Oh, where's the Gordon Ramsay one?" And I was like, "Shit, that's what just John told me. That's not a real thing."
I don't see a Julia Childs in any of these.
Where's the Jacques Pepin?
Guy Fieri, for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
He's got the flamey shirt.
Oh yeah, dude. And he's got like the hair,
just
a giant flame head.
You got to do a video on how to paint bleach tips.
You can keep that for your channel, buddy.
Oh man. All right, so I've been doing that, and I've been doing some kind of first early levels color swatches, testing paint ideas for my color scheme of my army.
Boner boys.
My boner boys.
What have you discovered? What's the main swatch?
Well, there's going to be a tricksy true in this because.
Can we back up a second? What the fuck? Is it Trixie True?
Well, a Trixie True is something
I
that
like how you're explaining it. It's like it's a thing.
is something that's both factual and sneaky. I can't believe you've never heard of Trixie True before. Oh,
For some reason, I didn't come to terms with the fact that you were saying the word true, like True. I just thought you were making up a word like Tru. A Trixie True. It's like a fun thing to say. All right, go on. What's your Trixie True?
There's got to be a way that I can get this all done fast.
Okay. I mean, they're skeletons, of course.
I mean,
White, wash, dry brush, done.
No washes will be used in the making of this.
Now you're just being a try-hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, washes will be used, but shut up. I'm not using contrast paint. Damn it.
Fine, use a wash. Same thing, just less pigment.
I know, but if I paint it and then I wash it, I should have just used contrast paint because that was only one step instead of two.
Well, I mean, if you prime it white and then wash it with Seraphim Sepia. Honestly, Seraphim Sepia and Skeleton Horde are identical products. One's a little bit more yellow than the other.
Yeah, the Skeleton Horde looks a little bit more browny.
Definitely.
Seraphim Sepia is a little bit more yellowy.
But Skeleton Horde isn't like super rich in pigment like Flesh Terror Red is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to stain your model brown. It's a nice little wash.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
I want to use a neon somewhere.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So I bought the Golden Acrylics Neon Pink.
Hell yeah, you did.
And I haven't decided. I think I might go neon green, but I bought one to test out how good it is. It's super vibrant, like hurts my eyes to look at it bright.
Yeah. Actually, I have a neon green if you want to use it.
You
From
have
that exact range.
Oh, have you used it before?
I used it on painting a custom keycap for a keyboard. Yes, I have.
Was it super vibrant green? Was it like...
I didn't give it a fair test, honestly. I didn't like it very much because it was super glossy, but all fluo paint is pretty glossy.
Okay.
But that was a long time ago. So more testing needs to happen.
Okay. Well, we'll send it back to the lab.
Okay, yeah. Send it back to the lab.
The same
Deliberate further.
The same folks that found us the details on the Blood Knights will be doing this research later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just your two dogs with like fake glasses on. What is
in little like doggy lab coats.
right?
Which is kind of funny. Lab
Oh,
coat.
They are wearing lab coats.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Because they have coats of fur in their labs. Well, on that note, let's get into the sponsor for this video. A frontier that hasn't really been explored when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons is the audio experience. We're getting there with the visual experience. There's a lot of good things for terrain and especially miniatures coming out, but there's got to be a better way for us to massage our ear canals.
The massaging of ear canals.
Yeah.
And how would we go about doing that? You say, and I have the answer. The answer would be, we need the technology.
Yes, we do.
And luckily, we are in the 21st century and such a technology now exists. Something that doesn't require a silly monthly fee or is so clunky to use that it impedes my dungeon mastery. But maybe even a bit modifiable to my needs.
Now, John, it sounds like you have something very specific in mind right now.
I'm talking about RPG Sounds, Scott. RPG Sounds is brought to us by Cast and Play, a group of artists, gamers, storytellers, and designers that not only create 3D printable miniatures, but they're also the sponsor of this episode.
How does that work out? John, do you know of any iconic sound effects? The system is down.
So what do you mean by like an iconic sound effect?
Probably like the Metal Gear Solid, someone just noticed you sound. The ring.
Or the Inception sound.
Yes. RPG Sounds is a software that allows dungeon masters to create immersive scenarios for their players, either via unique soundscapes or specific sound effects that are triggered when certain things happen.
So sounds like that you can actually import into the RPG software and bring it all into the game for you. And they also include a whole lot of their own built-in sounds, so your experience is immersive, is one of a kind, and fits for your campaign. So an important factor is that you can also import your own sounds into the software. So even though there's a vast array of options already for you, this software will grow with you, not only through your current campaign, if you want reoccurring sound effects, but also through the years as you import from new campaigns. You can still look at what you did a year ago or a decade ago.
One of my favorite features of the RPG sound software is that based on where your party is located, it will modify the sound effects to match. So for instance, if you set up the program to say, I'm in a cave, all of the sound effects like rocks falling or things like that will be echoey. So it all kind of marries those things together in a nice way.
You can find out all about the Kickstarter by Cast and Play RPG Sounds in the notes below. Thank you, Cast and Play, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the podcast.
In today's episode, we want to talk about miniature painting classes, what we've learned from taking them over the course of the last years, teaching a few of them, and just like certain things that we've learned to look for in good classes, and also certain ways that you can decide which classes you want to take, whether it's at a convention or whether maybe a cool local painter is doing a cheapo class or some big name guy is rolling through your town and charging big bucks, whether or not you should take it or not take it. So let's get started.
That was a really good description.
Thank you. I'm a professional.
Yeah, that was like, I couldn't think of anything you should have done a separate take on for that.
Well, thank you.
Because we only do one take, so it works well.
So do you remember the first miniature painting class you ever took?
Yes.
Okay.
It was with you.
Oh, that was the first one?
Yeah, the one with Sam Lenz.
Okay, so the first one you took. Can you describe your experience?
Okay. Scott says, hey, I have Sam Lenz coming to town to do a 2-day mini painting class, and I feel like I'm... What?
Go.
Okay. You were doing finger points, and I didn't know if that was mean I needed to stop.
No, you're great. I want to say something about that, though. But go.
I'm helping coordinate a mini painting class for Sam Lenz, and I suck at doing this, and I need more people to come, so please come. I think that was word for word what you said.
I suck at doing this.
And so I said, heck yeah, I'll do that. Sam looks like an amazing mini painter.
And it was your birthday.
It was just, that was my birthday. My wife gave it to me as a birthday present.
Yep.
And so it was right around my birthday, my real birthday, I think.
Yeah. I remember that. Don't do that. Don't fart on my podcast.
What? Dude, you just farted all the way through the advertisement.
Yeah, no one knew though.
Well, my nose did. We had chicken nuggies for lunch.
Yeah, 30 of them.
We split 30, and we were like, we should have got 30 more.
Yeah, you slammed them in 10 minutes, dude. All right, anyway, Sam rolls through town. Johnny Boy takes the class. It's a 2-day long class.
Yeah. And so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how classes were supposed to go. I mean, we've all had some form of formal education before, and it kind of feels like that's where all of these kind of start with, is you have to have some kind of a rubric, of a goal, of a focus of the class or classes over one day or multiple. And oftentimes that feels from an area of comfortability. Because it's like, oh, when I was in high school, this was how a class worked.
Yeah, you started out with the syllabus.
Yep. Or I went to a technical school, or I went to get a bachelor's degree or whatever. And so it comes from that area of feeling something we're familiar with. And I think that's usually where folks, when they're looking at designing a class or teaching a class, that's where they start with. And Sam had that laid out. Like, he had like 4 separate things that we were going to do over the course of 2 days, and how they kind of worked together and built off each other and rounded out to our final task being the one that was kind of pulling everything together to have the biggest effect on our miniature painting as a whole.
Right.
So was that an accurate description?
Sure. Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
I just wanted you to talk about how you felt and experienced it.
Oh, how did I feel?
Well, yeah, but your time's up now. My turn. No,
okay.
I'm just kidding. That's a kind of a crazy, not crazy, but that's a big first experience. You have never done a class before. The first one you do is 16 hours of hardcore painting. So like the first one I did was a 2-hour class at Adepticon. So it wasn't as intense. I was just curious, like, I mean, actually, you might have had some expectations because of various things you do at work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of trainings, whether giving trainings and teachings myself to other professionals and going to different conventions or shows or, educational foundation opportunities that I've experienced with that. And it actually did follow a format that I was able to follow and be fairly comfortable with.
Cool.
Because I had never done one before, I just kind of was like, I'm just going to go along for the ride. And I didn't set expectations I really didn't say I need to be better at this or this better do this for me. Otherwise it's going to feel like a waste. I find that that's typically, at least for me, the best way to approach it. So I didn't have expectations. And I thought that Sam was an amazing painter and that I will naturally follow whatever his lead is because, he's the one that's going to know what's right and wrong because he's been through this after doing it for so many years. And I felt like that worked well, that just follow their lead. Don't get too knee deep in anything. Just let whatever naturally absorbs for you, let it happen. And I ended up taking out a good amount from that class. I think there was really two main things that I learned from that class that I took away and that I ended up using. What you say, John, it was 16 hours and you learned two things. Well, sometimes you need to have time to watch, to absorb, to practice, to really have something leave an impact for you. And one of those things was really how to understand and how to utilize wet blending of base coats.
Sure, yeah.
And to say that is an aid to my painting is an understatement because that's such a great foundation to every single thing you paint, at least for me, for my style of painting. So I thought it was worth it for sure.
Sick. Okay. Yeah, the first class I ever took was 2016 at Adepticon. I took a class taught by Ben Comets called How to Paint Faces. And this was the first time that I ever experienced the 3-zone thing for a face: top yellow, mid red, bottom blue kind of thing. So it was like, wow, Ben is a genius. Like, I've never heard of this. This makes total sense. So it blew my brain away. And then he had a little bust that was probably 54 mil scale bust that we painted, and it was cool, and I had fun and I learned a lot. And that kind of was like, wow, what other classes can I take and learn from? I took probably in 2016 probably 4 classes. That's pretty common for someone who goes to Adepticon the first time. I take a buttload of classes, and so I took a lot. So that was a great experience. But one thing, the reason why I was waving my finger earlier at you was people always ask the question like, oh man, I live in an area where no one ever comes through. No one comes to Minneapolis. The reason why people have come to Minneapolis and have started to was because you got to be the goddamn change you want to see in the world. Okay, you got to be Gandhi. Okay, no, you're not gonna be Gandhi. But I reached out to Caleb Wissenbeck and I was like, hey, there are people here that will listen to you and you can make money. Dude, if you flash that green, people will come, okay? So if you can organize an event for a painter that you like and you want to swing through, and you can show them, like if you, ask them, how much do you need to charge per seat and how many people do you need there to be for it to work for you and for you to make money? And they'll tell you a number. They'll be like $200 a head, $300 a head, whatever it is. And if you can prove there are people that are going to pay that ticket price, they will come and teach a class in your area. So if you are the kind of person who's like, not having a lot of great classes, consider like leveraging the local people in your area and the gaming groups and like the various stores and seeing like, how many people can I get to come to a class? And if you have enough, you can get a lot of people to come through to your area. It's not too difficult. So yeah, that's definitely a thing people have asked a lot that I want to address right now. But yeah, we've taken classes from Caleb Wissenbeck, from Sam Lenz, long classes, and then a myriad other classes of various lengths, 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours at various cons and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of those 2 to 4 hour classes are typical at conventions. You mentioned the first timer going to a con and their whole schedule is packed with classes.
Yep.
And whenever we're talking with somebody new or somebody whatever at a convention and they explain how their schedule and it's all like packed, like they're taking 25 credits a semester or something. Yeah. I'm like, hey, Rook, what are you doing? First timer, huh? Yeah, like, no.
You got to have time to relax and have fun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can't jam pack it with classes from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I mean, and I'm sure the seats sell out, and I understand there's awesomeness and value, but I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why someone would want to take a 3-day, 8-hour-a-day workshop at a convention.
Yeah, you're there for the convention.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I can understand. If you're there by yourself and you don't have any friends with you, that's why I took them.
Yeah.
Because like I there was no one for me to hang out with.
Yeah.
So I just did that.
If that I guess is, I'm here to take a class by so-and-so. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that the class is at a convention.
Yep.
I guess maybe that's a different way to approach the whole weekend experience.
Yep.
So I'm totally behind that. But by and large, I think most of us are like, we're here for the convention and we're going to take some classes while we're here. Mm-hmm. So there is a middle ground. You know, we had 0 classes on our calendar for Adepticon this year, Scott.
Yeah.
Are we going to tear off a Band-Aid a little bit and explain why? Or do you want me to do it and you can throw me in front of the bus? I'm fine with that.
No, I'll do it. I don't know. I don't know if it's because we are growing and learning as miniature painters or because we've taken classes in the past, but there's this expectation when you go into a class that, I don't know, you're going to learn something foundational every single time and it's going to blow your socks off. And that is simply not the case. Sometimes you'll learn something really valuable and sometimes it'll feel like what you're doing is 90% a waste of time. And it's not necessarily because the instructor is bad. It's because maybe you didn't know exactly what the curriculum was walking in and you were being taught a bunch of things you already knew, or because sometimes the curriculum is poorly put together. So, okay, I'm not saying that I'm an amazing teacher, but there is definitely a difference between someone who's very good at what they do and someone who just knows how to explain what they're very good at doing. So sometimes those two aren't linked, and you'll take a class from a person who's super good at painting but can't really explain what's going on in their head to have them get that amazing result. And so that can be a point of disappointment where it's like, I love X painter, but boy, do they suck at explaining things. Or add another layer of difficulty on top of that. They don't speak the native language here in English, and that makes it even harder for them to explain stuff when you're not speaking your native tongue. So yeah, there's a lot of disappointment for me personally mixed up in classes for any number of those reasons.
Yeah, I think you touched on kind of my big rocks that I wanted to move with that. And that's the thing is you don't always know going into it. And sometimes you have to just kind of just wing it and hope for the best.
Yep.
I know me personally, over the last 2 years of Adepticon, I did that and was almost entirely disappointed.
Yeah.
Every class I walked out of there frustrated that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, or it didn't teach me what I was expecting it to teach me based on the description, or I saw what they did and it looked really awesome, but they couldn't communicate it. And I mean, I've come to this point and I'm in this area in my professional life, and I'm not saying that I'm an amazing miniature painting teacher, but I've seen enough in the professional world of the best people in the world are not the best teachers in the world.
No, it's true for a lot of different careers as well.
Yep, and being a great teacher is more than just being really good at that task. And so some of the people that I've learned a ton from had nothing to do with how good their final product was. It was really about relating it to something that I can absorb, using both the visual medium of we're here together, let me do it in real time while I'm communicating exactly how and why I'm making the decisions I'm making, what I'm looking for to create here, and how I know I'm on the right track or where to readjust. All of this is going in my ear holes while watching them paint, going through my eye holes and smelling the nerd BO through my nose holes is very necessary. And oftentimes we miss some of that in a class. I would rather a teacher spend 50 plus hours on really focusing their curriculum and their teaching style than them spend 50 hours on becoming a better painter so they think that can make them a better teacher. Being a better teacher is a different skill set entirely. And so I just want, and it's a tough thing because we say what to look out for when you're looking to take a class. You don't always know other than checking with other people, right? Check with other folks that you know or that you're in Facebook groups with or in Discord servers with. Hey, is anybody taking a class from so-and-so? I see they're coming to my area or they're going to be at the convention. What did you think? What was their communication style like? How much was just them showing, and how much were they interacting with each of you while you were painting so they could give you real-time advice?
Sure.
How much of that was integrated? Ask the deeper questions that help you learn. Think about when you were a student in whatever aspect of life, how did you learn better? If their teaching style lines up, you'll have a better time. If it is missing something that you know is really necessary or very helpful for you, even if you love their painting, you maybe skip that one and do somebody else. I don't know.
So yeah, I want to talk about that. It's like, how do you know when to take a class and when not to take a class? Like John said, it's hard to know. Like, unless people make their curriculum very obvious or they're providing a bunch of cool features that you get when you pay for the class, it's hard to know exactly what the experience is going to be like other than by word of mouth. But a lesson that I learned about taking classes is that a good determining factor is that you should just take a class from someone that you like their painting of. You shouldn't take a class from someone because someone else told you they were a good painter, or because they're highly accoladed and they have a bunch of Slayer swords or golden demons or crystal brush awards or whatever the hell it is. You should take the class because you like how they paint. If me and John roll through your city and you don't like how we paint, don't take our class, because the class is on how we paint. You will be ultimately disappointed. So me and John took a class from Michael Pisarski, and I fucking love Michael Pisarski. And maybe John recognized that he's a great painter, but maybe doesn't like his style a whole lot. Is that fair to say?
I really think some of the things he can pull off is absolutely bananas awesome.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Definitely a fan. Maybe not as boy hardy as you.
Yeah,
but
we walked away from that experience differently. You were a little bit in that kind of confused how to take what he was saying and apply it to something other than a shoulder pad that we were painting. And I was like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to see how Michael paints, and that's what I got to see. I got to see how he approaches painting a large scale NMM object, and I was mostly happy. Now, do I remember a single thing from that class? Maybe like 2% of it, but not a lot. But I still remember enjoying the time. So I think a really important thing is that you like the way the person paints that you're taking the class of. That's what the class is on, how they paint.
Right. Yep. And there's something to be said about just lifting behind the curtain to see how the wizard makes the magic. And that's truthfully like the parts of it for somebody like Michael Pisarski is his NMM is just bananas. And I'm seeing how he actually creates that. And so part of the mystery is solved. That said, it's a small part of the mystery. He's just showing the technical aspect of, I make really, really tiny lines with a really, really tiny brush. Okay. All right. If someone told me that one sentence about it and I looked at one of his minis, I could have learned what I learned in that class, because I got no other communication, no other breakdown of here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. No other like, here's how I'm using this to make this better. It was that one sentence, and it bugged the crap out of me. And we actually just got one shoulder pad of a bust instead of the full bust.
I'm pretty sure it was 1/4 of a shoulder pad.
Yeah. So everything was cut up with saws. And again, I didn't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the expectation that we go into a class with, that wasn't described in the course description.
Oh, yeah.
That I think oftentimes if I'm on the fence of whether to take a class or not, I read the course description and I ask myself, how much effort did they put into creating this course description? And I'm not saying the person that wrote 4 paragraphs is going to be a better class than the person that wrote 4 sentences.
Sure.
I'm saying how much effort and focus and editing and really defining as best they could how to communicate what makes their class special. Because if they're going to put the effort into that, that means they put the effort into their curriculum.
Yeah.
And their curriculum is where a class will live or die.
Yeah, dude. It's all about that elevator pitch.
Yep.
If you can succinctly describe your idea to someone about what you want to accomplish, whether it's a movie script, whether it's a class thing, and you can sell them with that pitch, then you know like what your goals are and what you want to accomplish very succinctly. Recently, me and John took a class, and we want to talk about our experience with it and what we learned from it, and
Taught a class, not took a class.
Sorry, we taught a class, right, in Minneapolis. So I mean, it all started with that one random class that I taught in Canada. There was a game store. They're like, hey, you want to come out and teach a class? And I was like, sure. Taught 2 4-hour classes, one for beginners, one for advanced people. Beginner one went great. Had a lot of fun. People were, it was basic concepts. They were enjoying them. Got to the advanced class and the fucking wheels came off, baby.
Oh, baby.
I could tell that I was spiraling out of control. I just missed all these things. I have this problem where I get into my own head while I'm in the middle of doing something, and it's like, not now, figure it out later. Yeah. You gotta bail the water out of this sinking ship, not worry about the next ship right yet. So I took that class, and then I had a few things that I knew could really improve a class. And then I got John involved in that curriculum, and then we made what I think is a little bit better than what I had experienced, what I thought would be the best class based on that failure of an experience. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I guess the first thing is that, I don't know, you're there for 16 hours. If you're not having fun, it's like a miserable 16 hours.
Oh, right.
Because you're grinding on that model for a long time and learning really crunchy topics the entire time. So there needs to be an element of fun.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a heavy experience no matter which way you peel the banana. Sure. Not pull the banana. Don't be pulling people's bananas. Yeah, don't finger paint the monkey.
God, there it is.
And pull its banana. Yeah, it's going to be heavy. If it's not heavy and it's all kind of like go with the flow and laid back or whatever, you're equally going to disappoint the people in the class because they really wanted to get something out of it. And in order to do that,
concrete.
You do have to really invest and really kind of hammer away and be knee deep into this and really crank it out. Mm-hmm. And that's the downside. By doing that, you are setting this like slow motion drive off a cliff. And how do we make some pauses and make fun of the fact we're driving off a cliff before we hit play again and then keep falling?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that John devised for our class was a little bit of why am I blanking on what this is called?
A trivia game?
Trivia game. Yeah. So it was a trivia game about miniature painting and about just the podcast and the YouTube channel and things like that.
Fun stuff having to do with painting.
You're right. So like in between, we had our course laid out in chapters. Mm-hmm. In between chapters, we asked 1 or 2 trivia questions, and each team, which was split right down the middle, the students got to decide, to nominate one person to answer the question, mm-hmm. and they could canvass their team for an answer if they needed that, and then they'd get a point. And toward the end of the evening, there was a winning and a losing team, and they would get some raffle prizes, and then the losers would get some as well, but they get like less or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. It actually ended up being a tie.
Yeah. The greatest part of that is the last question you asked and what we thought was going to happen and what actually happened.
Right.
It's like the question that John asked for the tiebreaker, because they were tied, was, what's the one thing you need to do to be a better miniature painter?
Yeah, that was the question. And I had the answer written down. I hadn't even considered what they were all going to say.
And immediately they're all like, oh, we know the answer. And I was just like, what? And John's answer was get good. Yeah. It was a joke.
Would also have accepted don't suck.
Yeah, kind of the same vein. Yeah. And no, they all said paint more minis. Yeah. And we're like, what the fuck? Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah. Well, then we got it on camera because I think we realized it when they all said, oh, we all know. Let's all say it together. And then we were like, oh no.
Light bulb.
Right. So then you got it on camera and used it in the video.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I was like, oh damn, damn, that would have been even cooler if we would have thought of that and we had been planning that out.
Yeah.
Man, we would have looked like such all-stars. And the funny thing was, like, because it's a 2-day class, we went home the first night and we're chilling after supper and kind of like decompressing. And we're like, we need to add new trivia questions based on things that happened today. Because when you're in a class, especially a multi-day class or even one 8-hour day, if you set up an environment of a community of us all here together, none of us are strangers and we all want to here for the same purpose, and they all feel like that they're not strangers anymore, which was a primary focus for us in the first hour of the class, is we didn't want people to be strangers anymore.
No.
And now suddenly after day one, we had inside jokes. We had things that happened from the world outside in the classroom over with a giant drum group that was going while we're trying to teach.
Yeah.
From inside jokes that were made and then people laughed and it ran with it. From stuff that happened at lunch, all these things, right? And we brought those back into day 2 as trivia questions. And it brought us even further together. And it's like, oh, now when someone posts something on Instagram and they mention something, it's like we've all gone through this. And so suddenly this grinding 16 hours of painting over 2 days doesn't feel so heavy. And it's not that they did less work. It's that their mind wasn't so focused on the heaviness and being tired and exhausted and mentally taxed.
Right. Yeah. We're not going straight from understanding the anatomy of a human face right into understanding how to paint reflective fabric. It's like we gotta take a little break and just chill for a bit. So that was a good thing. That introduced some humor. That wasn't my idea at all. That was entirely John's idea, and I freaking loved it. That was amazing. The other problem that classes often have, and that was a problem with the class that I taught in Canada, was that you're just not going to finish the model you're going to paint probably to the standard that maybe someone would want to finish it to. So, and this happens with all classes. You're either rushing toward the end or you're maybe skipping over certain details to kind of get to the more important ones. So the class needed to come with some kind of thing that backs up the education so people can go back and learn about what they were taught in the class and be reminded of some of the key concepts. So before we taught any class, I wanted to get that video thing, what do you want to call it? A video digital course in place so every single student could get that thing so they could reference it later on and remember what was being taught in the class, because the two kind of line up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a learning lesson from the Canada class that I wanted to implement, and I think I said it in the video at some point as well. But what else did we learn from teaching the class that we could improve it maybe with?
One thing we talked about, someone's sales pitch or their course description. Yeah. The thing that we spent a lot of time on and a lot of hours on, a lot of edits, a lot of back and forth of both of our perspectives was actually creating our full curriculum. And I don't think that's something to gloss over lightly. When we talk about what it takes for somebody to put on a painting class, a lot of times you hear or think about the time it took them to prep and prime all the minis that we're all going to paint. That should be a drop in the bucket compared to the effort you put in to the structure and the purpose of every part of this class and how that ties into your total goal for that weekend or that day. Right. And we did a lot of edits and we spent a lot of time. And the greatest part about it is it's a living, breathing thing. Yes. We go back to it and we're like, okay, this worked great. This we should tweak here. This, do we need this at all? This, we should spend more time here. We would make notes on details of important things. We went back and on day 2, first thing about day 2, Scott says, we need to walk through how to build your wet palette. We're taking for granted that everybody knows the way to best utilize a wet palette when you build it. And I'm sure many of you are like, well, it's pretty simple. You put the paper down and wet. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but everyone was struggling with it, and all their papers were super wrinkly, and they were fighting against their tools, and it was slowing down what the main key concept was supposed to be. I was running back and forth between the sink, doing it for certain people because theirs was like a total shamble. Yep. So, yeah. It's just about setting everybody up for success. And that was an example of something that we can spend 3 minutes at the start. Make sure everyone's set up for success equally so we don't have any roadblocks unnecessarily put in our own way, so we can get you what you need to really get the most out of the class. Absolutely. So the curriculum is a big thing. In curriculum writing and outlining and understanding your key points, what is your mission statement for this whole class? How are you tying this in? Who is your audience? What is the purpose? What are your key messages? What is the tone? All these things, it's not the same as being a good mini painter. And there takes some research and some effort into how these things are crafted to really put on paper and then to run with it to make it live. So that was a lot of work. Yeah. And hopefully we're going to do enough of these classes where we're like, yes, that work really kind of feels like it's paying dividends.
Right. Yeah. But I don't want this podcast to only seem like we're trying to advertise our own classwork. It's starting to feel like that a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
If you are wanting to, either you have a class and you want to improve the curriculum, I'm not saying that we are the end all be all example of what a great curriculum is, but John mentioned a bunch of great things just right there. It's like, just take it all the way back to what your goals are. Who is your target audience? What kind of person are you trying to teach to? And define that person super well so that no one takes your class and is disappointed because either A, they have no freaking clue what you're doing and you need to start at a way lower understanding level, or they're way beyond you and this is a total waste of their time. So figure out what you want to teach. Define it in like 3 or 2 goals. Find out who you want to teach it to. Like, what is that audience, or what kind of audience is going to want to learn those things that you want to teach? And then make sure your curriculum is broken up into sections, maybe, and make sure each section is trying to is aimed back at what your goals are, so that nothing seems irrelevant and everything seems like it's kind of flying under the same mast of what your goals are. So that's a great high level way to do it. In a previous life, I was an engineer. Mm-hmm. And I'm now a content creator, a YouTuber. I kind of wish that I used to be a teacher, so I would have had a formal education on how to educate, because I feel like that would help me more right now than my engineering career did. Like, I got to write my own Discord bot. That's about all it's helped me with so far.
I think there's a lot more from the technical, scientific, mathematical side that helps you more than you probably recognize.
I suppose so. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you complainer.
But yeah, because I would love, knowing the way that people learn and being able to, really formulate something that's standardized and feels right. It feels like still kind of winging it.
I feel like a lot of that comes with, like anything in life, is you just need more experience. You need more hours clocked.
Yeah,
and that's just it. For all of us, if you make this a priority, you make a commitment. If you are deciding for yourself, I think I might want to do a beginner mini painting class for my local hobby store, or I think I want to dip my toe into painting at a convention, a painting class at a convention. Mm-hmm. You need to make that a priority and make it a serious venture for yourself. Mm-hmm. Instead of just saying, I paint, I'll show up, I'll kind of have some ideas in place and we'll roll with it. Mm-hmm. And making a good class is not saying this is a class on weathering. That doesn't make a good class, because it's easy to come up with a concept. It's easy to come up with something like, I'm pretty good at doing this thing, so I'll just do a class on it. That doesn't mean it's going to be a good class just because it's a thing you're proud of that you do well.
That's a good start.
It's a great place to start. I'm not saying don't do a class on that.
Yeah.
I'm saying don't just lean on that. That will make it good.
Right.
One thing that I've, to pull this back from us a little bit, it's obviously something that we addressed, but I struggle with the actual logistics in a room with seeing the work that's being done by the teacher, and it's allowed for the class to all have the same worthwhile visual experience.
Oh, okay.
Oftentimes in a class, you get one of two things. You get an over-the-shoulder camera that's projected on a TV or a projector. Sometimes it's on a great clear big screen. That seems to be the rarity. Oftentimes it's on a small screen, or the class is so deep. If you're sitting in the back half of the class, you're painting with a tiny, tiny, tiny thing. Even if it's on a TV or a projector in the front of the class, you can't see it really well.
Yeah.
That's option one. Option the second is everybody in the class.
I hate this.
Come around me and let's hover over my shoulder and get in front of me. That's good for about 6 people worth of class. You got more than that, and this is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
half of your class, whether you think so or not, at least half of your class has a terrible overall experience because they can't see from a proper angle.
Yeah.
And my point is to help you understand why I'm painting the way I'm painting, how I'm painting, decisions that I'm making, technical application, all that stuff. You're losing all of that. You're losing all of that if they can't see it. So that's something we address. We've experienced great classes where it wasn't an issue at all.
Yeah.
But for every class that it's not an issue, I've got at least one, probably two classes that it is an issue that I've taken.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought of another thing that'd be helpful for people when they're deciding on what classes to take and what will be valuable for them. When I look back amongst the maybe 10 to 15 different classes I've taken, the ones that always stick out as being great are when I take a class about something I have no idea about. So I took a class that was a speed painting class with Rafael Pica, and I've mentioned this before in the past, and it was so much fun, and it inspired me to take up speed painting. And I have been practicing what he taught in that class for 2 years now at this point, and I love it. It's been a foundational thing for me about how I paint faster. And he started with a very simple description of what we're going to focus on and why we're going to focus on it. There was no TV. We didn't paint anything. He painted something and then handed it around in stages. And I took a picture of each stage when it got handed it around. But there wasn't a camera over his shoulder. He was just so good at explaining what he was doing and why he wanted to do it. That was the beauty of it. But I think the real beauty was that at that point in my life, speed painting wasn't a thing. It was just like, I have one way of painting, and it's just like 5 hours per mini.
Yeah.
Minimum, period. And so it's just like, it blew my mind, the considerations that he was taking. So if you're looking to take a class and you're really good at NMM, probably don't take an NMM class, because while you will pick up 1 or 2 gems, you will waste 90% of your time in that class. And it will feel, I think, like a disappointment. But if you're not good at all at speed painting, or you're not good at all at basing or weathering or something like that, take a class. It'll feel like it has way more value because you're learning so much more stuff.
Yeah, because there's all these different bars on our internal painting, schedule here, and maybe my NMM is up to a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
But a lot of these other ones are 2s and 3s.
Yeah, take the 2s and 3s.
Take a 2 and 3 and raise it up to a 5 or a 6, because that feels like you're leveling up.
Yeah,
you're gonna hit level 16 soon if you do all this.
Level up is a great word. It's like I just put a new tool in my pocket that I'm going to use on different things and apply in different ways. Absolutely level up.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of folks, when they choose to take what classes they take at conventions, especially, that the ones that stick out to them typically fall under that. Most conversations I've had is like, I don't understand NMM at all. I'm definitely going to take an NMM class. The tough thing with that is NMM is a great example of this. If there's a lot of other foundational things that really can level you up quicker, being foundational at NMM is not as valuable as getting smooth feathering down and glazing down and understanding how to build up contrast with light and shadows. That's just my opinion, but oftentimes people jump to that one because it's a real big kind of hot topic.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can do good NMM, that makes you an awesome mini painter.
Yeah, sure.
And I tend to think, maybe it's just because I don't think I do great NMM by any stretch of the imagination, but if I can do a lot of these other things really well, I'll level that up later. But overall, my minis will look better.
Yeah. There's a lot rolled up in NMM, the topic, that make it something really hard to teach in 2 hours. Yeah. At least in my opinion. Maybe I'm just exaggerating what the amount of you need to understand to effectively pull off non-metallic metal, but I don't know. I don't think I could teach NMM in 2 hours and have anyone walk away feeling like, yeah, I'm going to give this a shot. They're still going to be scared or confused or something. I'm still confused.
Yeah.
It's a confusing topic.
Right? Yeah. I don't know how the heck I'm going to teach this.
So people, when we took our class, they asked us, how do you feel? And by the way, everyone took our class was super fucking nice.
Yeah. We had an awesome class.
Yeah. We went out to a local brewery. There's a ton of breweries in Northeast Minneapolis. We went out to one we could walk to. I think it was Able. And they invited us out there, and they were super nice. And then, one of the guys was asking me, he's like, how do you feel? And I was like, I have no clue. all I'm thinking about is how do I make it better next time.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I was feeling, was that before or after? That was before we read the surveys.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, so when we finished our class, we had, I won't call it an extensive, but really we put a bunch of time into making a survey that we thought would really help us improve the course by being very pointed in the questions we asked. And all I was thinking of is we did it on paper and made them all fill them out, gave them time at the end.
Yep.
So they weren't rushed. We didn't have to go hound them later for an online survey.
Yep.
We got it done. They were more than happy to do it. And all I'm thinking of when they're like, how are you guys feeling? I was like, I want to get the hell out of here and read those surveys. I want to know how to make this better. And that was the very first thing we did. We literally,
once we got in the car.
Yeah. Got in the car. I started driving. You started reading out loud. And I think we learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
But also it was reassuring the things we already were talking about and thinking about that we wanted to improve upon or change or tweak. They mentioned some of those things. So it's reinforcement for decision making going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're teaching a class, don't be afraid to ask for a survey, because an anonymous one, people, they're not, when you walk up to them and be like, how'd you join the class? They're not going to be like, it was shit, and here's how it was shit. No one's going to say that to you. They're too nice. Every mini painter is so nice. Maybe one or two would, do that, but they're rotten eggs. So a survey at the end of the class is, any educational experience is a great idea. So you can get just great unfettered feedback about how good you did. Mm-hmm. There's some ego death involved.
Oh yeah.
But mostly it's for the better.
Yeah. You have to be willing to take that harsh feedback. And I think if you really truly want to improve and have this as a skill in your pocket, which is teaching, then you'll take that feedback and you'll be appreciative of it.
Yeah, it's like mini painting. Everyone seeks out feedback like it's freaking gold, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing for anything you're trying to improve at as a skill in your life. You want that feedback.
We encourage people to take mini painting classes.
Absolutely.
But remember, you are the customer. You are paying a person for a product or a service. In this case, it's kind of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Mostly the service, though.
Yeah.
And so we just want you to be active in that. We want to help you in making decisions for what you decide to spend your money on. Mm-hmm. And we want you to learn from the classes you take in that you think are great or terrible or everywhere in between, to help you up your mini painting game in the future for future classes you take. Mm-hmm. That's kind of was our catalyst for this topic this month. And a lot of stuff that we've been like toiling through, from the creation to the implementation, to the post-event breakdown, to the editing and improvements to our class, we felt like is really fresh on our mind.
Yeah.
And we thought it was a timely time to discuss this in a podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And it would have made even more sense if Adepticon was actually happening.
Right.
Fucking rip, dude.
Right. But we weren't going to take any classes, so maybe it wouldn't have mattered. There are certain people that I really want to take a class of.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we should explain why we don't want to take a class. It's not because the classes are bad.
No.
So maybe some of them are bad. Some of them are great. It's because usually Adepticon occurs right at the end of incredibly intense painting.
Yes.
And you don't want to paint more. When you go to a miniature painting convention, you just want to be high and drunk off your mind for 5 days straight talking to nerds. So it's not because we don't like the classes. It's just because we want to take a break.
Yeah, we're ready for a mental break. And I think I learned that in my first year. I was like just grinding out to get that crystal brush piece done and stressing and putting every last eek of an hour I could up until we left in my truck to go to Adepticon. And when I got there, I'm like, okay, I got a class today.
Yeah. Or you like wake up at like 10 a.m. You're like,
Yeah.
I have a class in 30 minutes. Like, oh, geez.
Yeah. And I still think that there's some value in doing that. And like last year we took 2, and that felt pretty good.
Sure, yeah.
I think 1 or 2 would still be good because you just kind of go at it with, I don't need to like solve all the world's mysteries in this 2-hour class.
Yep.
Be easier on yourself. Try to get 1 or 2 golden nuggets out of it. That's it. Get 1 or 2 things that resonate with you. That does remind me, when you were talking about your digital course, you have another amazing resource that you created for our class. Maybe we won't toot our own horn even more, but one thing that I always have issues with is that information dissolving in my brain. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're in the middle of a convention, or it was a 2-hour course in the matter of the 4-day convention, and a week later I'm like, what was the I know he used really small scratchy lines, and he did some gray and some lighter gray, but I can't recall the big things I'm supposed to take away from this.
Yeah.
So you either need to be awesome at reiterating your point 4 or 5 times over the course of your class so it does sink in.
Yeah.
Or you need to let them leave with something that it allows their brain to be brought back up to what they learned in your class and to be able to continue it. Because it's not about that 4-hour class. It's about 6 months from now.
Oh, yeah.
Did you actually implement something from that 4-hour class?
Yeah.
And if you didn't, it doesn't matter how much fun you had because it didn't make you a better mini painter. That's the goal.
That's a good point. So yeah, we created a little laminated spiral bound booklet with like hot tips, just from the various individual chapters, like really briefly summarized, so you could just take it and walk away with that.
Yep. With visual sense, like, oh yeah, visually, that's how we did it. Okay, these were the steps we did to do it. And zoop, I let that soak in with the memory of doing it myself in the class. And hopefully you're back where you want to be.
All right, that's it for the topic. Hopefully it didn't come off as just tooting our own horns and being like, we're the greatest in the world, because we certainly aren't. And we have definitely things to learn about how to be better educators about miniature painters, and also just becoming better miniature painters in general.
Yeah.
So that's just our experience with teaching classes, what we have learned. So with that out of the way, onto the newsy news.
Newsy news. I just wanted to bring up something real quick in the news, and that is as much as I don't want to spend a single breath talking about COVID-19 on this podcast, because I think that this should be a mental and emotional relief from things like that, I wanted to just briefly talk about our opportunities, right? I'm going to call them opportunities. Our opportunities to spend time practicing social distancing and getting our minis painted.
Yeah.
Right?
What have you guys been painting?
Yeah. So hopefully everyone is taking this opportunity to not only, take care of yourself and your loved ones, but get into that pile of shame and show it who's boss.
Heck yeah. Do you think the word or the phrase social distancing is a nice way to say quarantine?
Not really, because I think social distancing is more about physical distance. It's supposed to be like a 6-foot distance. Like you're not physically close. It's not like isolation.
Like right now, we are not being socially distant.
Well, we are to everybody except for each other.
Okay.
So if we both don't have it, we're fine. Because we spend all day and then all night tonight painting in here. We are doing a great job.
Yeah. If you do have it, you were spitting my mouth earlier, so
you have it.
If you got it, I got it.
Surprise, Amber! I'm coming home with a new little bug.
But in other news, frickin' Duncan Junior Rhodes.
Is he a junior?
Yeah, I think his Instagram handle has Junior in the title. Don't call me on that. I'm
just gonna call him Junior from now on.
Oh no. He came out with a bang. He released some content on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's been knocking out videos.
Yeah.
And I think we called this, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, we did. You can go back to a podcast and you can hear it. We say he's going to make a channel. But the one thing I love that he's doing is he started out with a website, creating a mailing list of people that are interested in paying for like a service on his site. I forget what he calls it. Like the Academy. Right. What was that sound?
What is that word? He's like, it's an academy.
Yeah, I had to come up with a name for like the website that I put my digital courses on. I called it the
Poopsmith.
The miniature school for mini people, kind of like the wizarding school for isn't that's the Harry Potter reference, isn't it? The wizarding school for
Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry?
No, okay, then I'm wrong. I'm wrong about something. Doesn't matter. But yeah, Academy, whatever. But yeah, he's coming out with vids, and surprise, they're very similar to the ones he did.
They
on
look
the GW.
awfully familiar.
They're very similar to the GW ones.
He's like, I feel like he's got like a what do you call it? Autopilot mode, where like if he just like pushes a button behind his ear and he's like, today we'll talk about the Lamenters and how we're gonna like his tone and the way he talks and the words he uses to describe no matter what he's painting is like, god damn, that sounds exactly how it sounded on his Warhammer videos.
Dude's a professional. Yeah.
It just cranks it out and it just feels like, oh yeah, can sit back in the saddle. I'm used to Duncan videos.
Yeah.
I am totally familiar with this. So
sure. Yeah. We're not trying to say that he should change the way he makes videos. Okay.
No.
So please, British people, pump the brakes on destroying me in the comment section. I'm not trying to say that he needs to make videos like I make videos, but yeah, they're very similar to the ones on the GW channel, and for a lot of people, that is exactly what they want.
Yep.
And yeah, it's great. And it's Duncan Unchained. He doesn't have to use GW palette paper or whatever. He can use whatever he wants.
I saw him using an army painter wash one time.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, my brain exploded.
Yeah. Still no wet palette though.
Still no wet
He
palette.
likes that hard palette.
Well,
Masochist.
yikes on bikes. Every time I see that, and even the old videos, and I actually watched a new Warhammer community painting video, and they take a dollop of the paint, and they put a little bit of brush load of water on there on the dry palette, and they mix it around so it's thin.
Yeah.
And they start putting on the thing, and then they cut to the next section, and then I immediately go, and I pause it, and I go, bullshit. You put like 2 paint loads of paint on that palette, and now you're already done with all of the skeleton's body. You know how many times you had to go palette to, or paint to palette, to water to palette, because you got to do it 2 brush loads at a time, because otherwise it's dried already.
Yeah.
Like, they're not showing you the really crappy parts of using a hard palette.
Yeah.
If you're doing one eyeball, then
don't know
you
why.
didn't need it. You didn't need the wet palette. But
Why doesn't GW make a fucking wet palette?
I think it's the same reason why they don't have dropper bottles. They're too far gone. They're too far into the warp where they can't turn around now. It undermines every decision. Because they've said for so long that this is what we are specifically doing it this way, because this is the way that we weigh the way.
Oh, yeah. Just keep saying the way.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it could be a little bit of stubbornness, but that just seems a little stupid.
I just used 3 versions of the word way in that sentence. I don't know if you caught that.
I'm going to have to listen to it back in the
This
edit.
is the way we weigh the way. Way.
Is there a difference between 1 and 3?
This is the way, W-A-Y.
Yeah.
We weigh, W-E-I-G-H. The way, W-H-E-Y, as in curds and whey.
Yeah, but what does weighing cheese have to do with what you're talking about?
Because I used 3 different versions of the word way.
It's the novelty of what you just did. Okay.
It's the brilliance is the word I would use.
Okay, yeah, we'll call it that.
Okay. You were saying words.
I don't remember what they were.
It wasn't important.
But yeah, Duncan's channel is out. He's pumping stuff out. Sisters of Battle, Stormtroopers, all kinds of stuff.
Sisters of Stormtroopers. Somebody needs to kit bash that.
What is that?
Sisters of Stormtroopers.
Is that like I'm trying to think of Finn's sister right now. You know who Finn is, right?
Finn from the Star Wars movie?
Yeah, because he's a stormtrooper. Who's his sister? Does he have one? He probably does, and we'll figure out about it in episode 10.
Right.
Because Star Wars can't keep from leveraging their previous characters in their franchise. They can't make anything new ever.
Everybody has to be...
Granddaughter of someone important.
Yep. Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
All right. So that's really our newsy news for today.
Yes,
I think
sir.
they're important things. I think Duncan doing Duncan things is great.
Yep.
You're looking at my single hair that's flopping down in my forehead.
Yeah, you look kind of like disheveled John right now.
Oh, I should, my wife sometimes says I have Hitler hair. This is probably a terrible thing to share on the internet. So should I show you guys what Hitler hair looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it go behind the ear?
No.
Yeah, sure.
There's my Hitler here. She says, quit. She's like, I should stop saying that in front of our daughter because then she's going to go to school and say, anyone with a side part, she's going to say you have Hitler hair.
I mean, kind of.
All right. I need to take it away.
Take it away. People can't see that. All right. Welcome to the after party.
The after party.
Bow, bow, bow. The first thing we do in the after party is talk about a favorite miniature of ours. Johnny boy, let's see what you got.
Ooh, let's pull it up. And we'll show it on the screen right now. Here's what we do.
Spanish miniature painted, baby.
Okay, AP Miniatures.
Antonio Peña.
Here, the first reason I picked Antonio Peña,
Lord Almighty, this model,
is because I feel like as a child he had similar issues that I did with people making fun of his last name. Because his last name is Peña, and my last name is Ninas. So I feel like he is like the Spanish version of me.
What's funny about the name Ninas?
Nothing.
I have a friend whose last name is Hyman.
Well, there's not even any like...
No room for interpretation.
No, yeah, that's just like... Okay.
It just does sound funny. Is that what it is?
I knew. Yes. No, it's just very close where you don't like if their last name is Hyman, like that the joke's already made. People don't think they're funny by doing it, or they probably still do, but they're slow. But like my last name in Peña is very close, so everyone thinks they're the first one to like make a riff on your last name that is crude, and they think it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, hold up here. I get Peña. Penis. Okay, I get it. What is Ninas? It just rhymes. That's what it is?
What word did you just say after Peña?
It's because it rhymes. Is that why?
Yeah, it's like one letter difference. Did you not ever make that connection before?
No, dude. I'm not a fucking 12-year-old.
Well, that's... I think that just puts you like 17 levels above the vast majority of Americans. So.
Thank you for handing me that.
Right, now you got it. So Mr. Peña has this Death Guard dude, which I freaking love this model.
Is this a model or did he kit bash this?
No, this is the new Nurgle warband for Shadespire.
Underworlds, get it right.
Got it. Underworlds. There's 3 minis in that warband, and he is by far the coolest. Super cool. But like his take on the green armor is like, this is super shiny green, super poppy, but not like we needed to like dirty it up to make it still feel Nurgly green. Sometimes when we do a lot of Nurgle weathering or just weathering in general of armor and stuff, it gets dirty, and by dirty I mean muddy, harder to read, not as crisp in detail, not as overall well done.
Yes.
And this is just super crisp and yet still feels evil, grimy, Nurgly.
Yes. A lot of this guy's work is super punchy.
Yeah.
And maybe some of you might be thinking, oh, he's just taking the saturation slider and just sliding it to the right. And if you look at the video of him holding this model in his hand, you can tell his skin tone isn't saturated.
Yeah.
So it just looks like that.
Yeah. There are people that do that.
Yeah.
And their stuff kind of looks like this. So if you see somebody's pictures on Instagram, and I could name some names, but I'm not gonna because I'm a nice person. If you see people's pictures on Instagram,
are you?
Click on their profile and try to find pictures of real world objects.
Yes.
And see within the picture, is the contrast still that vibrant?
Yes.
More than likely it's not. But if it is, they're awesome. Like Antonio.
So yeah, this is fantastic. What I love about this is that he can take every single object of this dude's just weird ornate armor and just put the highlights in the spots that make it look shiny and vibrant. And like maybe not all the blends aren't smooth, but it doesn't matter. Mm-mm. It looks great. This is the next step in my painting. I want to learn how to paint like this. This guy probably painted this thing in 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And if I painted this, it would take me 15.
Yeah, because I think something that I struggle with, and I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, you tell me if I'm wrong, that you're in the same boat as me, is that we get to the refining and detailing and smoothing steps way too soon. Like we need to be pushing big color differentiation, big contrast, like big sketch style. I freaking hate that generic term, but really starting with stronger foundations of where we want to end up. Hitler hair's back. Before we get there, like I'm way too quickly to like, gotta make it smooth.
Yep.
Gotta blend it out. And now I go to the next step.
Blend it. And
then I gotta do that again. That's why it takes me 7 hours.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Getting a snapshot picture of what your miniature is going to end up looking like in like an hour of time, just painting the whole thing and slapping paint on in the area where it's supposed to be. I think it's just something that takes time to practice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just comes from a very deep understanding of where to put the paint based on what I wanted to end up looking like and reading as, and based on what the material type is and all these different things.
Baby.
It's great. He paints great. I love it.
Yeah. He's one of the, I probably have about a handful of maybe 4 or 5 painters that he's one of them. Every single thing they paint, I'm like, God damn it, I feel like a crappy painter.
How many of them are Spanish painters? 3 out of 5?
Almost all of them.
Rodrigo Acore.
Yeah, is Acore a Spanish painter?
Yeah.
Crap, then all of them probably.
Wait, Acore might be Italian. I don't know, but yeah.
Acore, Martinez, Pena. Those are the 3 big ones. I mean, obviously,
there's a lot.
Kirill and Lan and Ben Kometz. So we're getting up. But like seeing dudes, Oliver Spaeth, every little like 28 mil, like dudes that do a lot of 28 mil.
Yeah, he makes board game miniatures look amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their sculpts are
not good.
Are not good.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that guy's great. He's a wizard.
And he does the same kind of stuff that AP is doing here. I was going to call him AP from now on.
Call him AP.
AP does here that are just like bold color changes.
Yes.
That after it's refined, it just still sees through. It's just very like positive, popping, jump out at you differentiation.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite mini, Scott?
First of all, Rodrigo is Spanish, and he's 27 years old.
Yikes on bikes.
So that's nice. Okay, what did I pick? I painted something from a painter named Hoy Vision.
Hoy?
And, you know, I think I might like this model for the exact same reasons as you like the one that you picked. This guy has a Patreon, so I encourage you to check it out if you are into the kind of painting that you're seeing right now. But he is also very good at getting an expedited result in what feels like a really fast time. And when you zoom into this miniature, it's not all just beautiful. Okay, maybe it is. The teal armor when you zoom in looks fucking phenomenal.
Oh, that teal just jumps out at you.
God, yeah. I just want to paint like this. This is kind of similar to the lady that I shared maybe 2 episodes ago, whose name escapes me right now, but she's a Polish painter, and her color, it's so poppy. It's so poppy and beautiful and shimmery, shiny, and it looks great. And I wish I could paint like this.
See the subtle additions of that teal in the NMM. You can see that showing its way through on the metal. Not a way that it screams in your face, but it's certainly there.
Look at his left boot toe thing. You see that big circular highlight right on top, but then it transitions into a really dark shadow right on the inside of the foot, the right side of the foot. That's not a blend. That looks right.
Yes.
Freaking A, dude.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, okay, it looks awesome at this distance. Now, if you were to put this 3 inches from your face and look at that toe, you'd probably be like, oh, I can see where it's not like that super blended, where that super bright part is right next to the super shadow part. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way things work. I mean, maybe it will be, but I would be shocked. But that's just how things work in the real world too.
Yeah.
Like we almost like get mini vision, where we assume one color next to another unless it's a black line, meaning a hard shadow, that it should always have incredibly gradation. Yep, incredibly smooth gradation. And that's just not how the world works.
No, it isn't.
don't even follow this dude. So
there's a lot of people that I follow that just paint in super punchy ways, and this is one of those guys. Maybe I want to call it high impact painting.
Did you make up that phrase just now?
No, I mean, yeah, I did. Sorry, but it's not,
did you see his Boner Boy Samurai dude?
No, I didn't see his Boner Boy.
Oh man, that's pretty awesome.
He has a lot of awesome stuff. I'm looking for the Boner Boy right now.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, this is gonna edit together poorly if we start talking about different miniatures.
Yeah, let's stop doing that.
Yeah, dude, the teal and then the dark red, rusty base, beautiful contrast. I guess if you could say something bad about this is that everything is too shiny. It's just like the teal is shiny, the steel is shiny, the gun is shiny for whatever reason. Like the black casing is shiny. Maybe breaking up all the
texture
shiny stuff.
Contrast.
Yeah, like the leather bits are nice. That's a really nice added addition. It's so fucking pretty.
That does to me look like where the direction that your painting is going and the way you paint, especially GW models, that's the direction you go. Like you super smooth, super refined, pushing for more punch and more like smooth impacts. And I could see that.
Well, thank you.
It's not my cup of tea, but
I appreciate that you said that about me.
I didn't say you paint like that. I said that's the direction I think you want to paint.
I'm driving in the same direction or the right direction.
Right. You're going west. He's going west.
I'm like 300 miles south of him.
Yeah, you're in South Carolina and he's in Colorado. So.
Oh, God.
Oh, zing.
I got a ways to go. All right. Craig Berry.
Craig Berry.
What you got, Craig?
Let's see what Craig's doing. I like this especially because Craig took really good pictures.
Yeah, it's not often that I don't know where a miniature is from because I'm a miniature painting genius. No, I feel like I know where a lot of things are from. I have no idea where this model is from.
I don't either.
Maybe it's some Reaper model.
It could be Reaper. It could be 3D printed.
Okay.
We're soon getting to that area too, where there's going to be a lot of stuff out there just to staying on top of every Kickstarter and every Thingiverse thing and everything, where it's like, what is that from?
Yeah. I keep forgetting that we need to explain what these things look like to the audio listeners.
Oh, shoot. Okay. So this is what looks to be some kind of like a Goliath, a blue-skinned, bald giant man with a big two-handed hammer.
Yeah. And he has like a punch dagger in his left hand that's covered up by like a skull.
Right. That's kind of hard for me to understand what that is, but
it's like
you described it well.
It's like an armor, whatever.
A hand armor with a dagger attached.
Yeah.
So the dude's painted with blue skin tones, and he's in a snowy base. He just has some like a leather loincloth and a little weird vest, so you can still see them abs.
Yeah.
And his hammer's got giant spikes.
Giant spikes.
On the flat ends.
So,
what do you think?
I like how the skull is shaded with like greenish tones. And what I think happened, and I love that this happened, was that maybe the skull was painted in a bluish, whitish, off-white way, and then washed with a sepia tone, and then the wash of the yellow and the sepia and the blue in the original base tone made for a green. That's happened to me in the past, and it's an accident, but it's a wonderful accident because I feel like the skull is kind of tied into this cold environment by it being a little bit bluish greenish. That's the first thing that I like about it.
I like that he's got highlight areas defined well. Like I can tell that, especially on the parts of the skin all over the body, the vest, and even like the shaft of the hammer with the leather and some of the metal, he has it well defined as where the light is coming from. Mm-hmm. The flip side of that coin is I feel like this model could have a lot more interest and depth if you didn't just highlight with white and shadow with black. So what I mean is you shouldn't just be using adding white to your midtone to make it a lighter tone, or don't just add black to your midtone to make it a shadow. It ends up feeling very two-dimensional or like not realistic. And even though if this guy's got blue skin tone, if you added a little bit of like a really light peach or a really light yellow as your highlight tone, it would still read as blue skin tone, but it would feel more rich.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mold line running on the hammer right behind his head.
Oops.
Sometimes you discover those things late. Like when you prime it or when you start to paint it, stop painting at that instant and scrape that crap off.
Yep.
There are 2 or 3 spots on Drazar where I have gone back and fixed either parts that I didn't fill correctly or I missed a mold line on, or you can see where I scraped stuff off. Mm-hmm. I went and smoothed that stuff out before I painted that thing, but after it was primed. So if you're going for super nice results, I mean, even this is super easy to take care of. Just grab a file or whatever you want to use and scrape that off and then start painting it.
Yep. Just paint right over it. Don't need to reprimer.
Indeed. The loincloth is highlighted very aggressively. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're just stripes. There's no blending going on at all. And if those were highlights, they probably would roll off into that shadow a little bit more subtly. And they're just really aggressive.
Yeah. And like down in the crotchal region, they wouldn't be that bright.
Absolutely, yeah. Under that
ram's head.
By the way, that ram's head, that copper color,
that's sweet.
It's super bright and shiny, and also it's the highlights are placed in a really nice way. You can see the wrinkles on the ram's head still.
Yeah.
But also, I just like that color a lot. Where'd you get that color? I want to know what it is.
Is that so? That's TMM, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or this guy's a god.
Yeah, because if that's NMM, that's you need to paint your copper for Drazar like this, but in
not fucking
NMM
colors. Yeah, it looks super nice. In general, the effect that I'm getting for a lot of the ways the highlights are placed on this model is they're really kind of dusty and dry.
Yeah.
Maybe you're overbrushing. Basically, overbrushing is like where you dry brush, but you remove less paint from the brush. Mm-hmm. So you get a scratchy application of highlights, but they go on faster than a typical dry brush might go on. So maybe you can approach highlighting in this way, but you can probably come back in with your midtone with a thinner dilution and maybe kind of knock back some of that dustiness, or hit it with a wash to knock back some of that dustiness, and that can help some.
I think that's a great one. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Overall, well done.
Well done.
Thank you so much, Craig, for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
And thank you for the high quality pictures too. It helps us.
Yeah, we appreciate it a lot. All right. Now on to something new that we tried. Why don't you go first so I can think of something?
You can think of something. All right. One thing that I tried, speaking of Rodrigo Ocore, I was looking through his Instagram recently, and if you look at his whips, have you noticed anything about how he starts every section?
Oh, it's base coated in a certain color.
It's base coated in the darkest shadow.
Oh,
he's a all the way at the bottom and only work up kind of guy.
Yeah, you're right. He is.
And so I'm like, I'm gonna try that.
Oh, you did? Did you try that?
Yes, I tried that, and it was odd, right? It was odd because it's just not. I'm used to start in the middle. You start at your mid-tone, and then you work in both directions. And you can kind of adjust on either side how you want to go. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think one thing that's helpful for this is because I am not used to it, and I'm looking at how he paints and want to paint more like that, I think it helped me just like, since it was totally new to me, I could just focus on wanting to get things to look like how his look, and how they have such a big boost in color and a big vibrant amount of contrast in each section, and not having to worry about leaving space for the shadow to keep it balanced on both sides. I'm only working in one direction, and so I can just constantly be focusing on is this moving me closer to where I want my final main highlight to be.
Do you think that it's easier to apply highlights than to apply shadows?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I think one issue that is just my theory is that oftentimes when we get to going to work our shadows more, we're dealing with such tiny spaces and little cracks to get into to really fit it in there and get those dark lines. We just don't have a lot of room to work without potentially grabbing a section that we already had been building lighter. And I think that's the reason why folks do this, is that they're always just working one way. I'm not saying they don't use a glaze or building stuff back deeper where they want to fix stuff, but by and large, it's always working up. I think highlights, the only tough part is when you're getting really, really bright to not deal with the chalkiness a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, that's the thing that I am working on.
The thing that I've been working on is, and I kind of alluded to this maybe earlier in a previous episode, was glazing with the color white specifically. So for the longest time, I thought that glazing with white was impossible, just because it always looked terrible.
Yeah.
But what I did specifically was I was painting Drazar, and I started with a wet blend. Not a super high contrast wet blend. If you guys know the colors, I wet blend titanium white and Arctic blue. So they're pretty close in value.
Yeah.
Right? And because of that, I didn't get a lot of chalkiness in between the blend because they're both very close. I'm not going for a huge swing. And then on either ends of the blend, to smooth it, I glazed white up toward the brightest spot, and then I took a darker off-white blue color or darker desaturated blue color and glazed it down toward the shadow. And I felt like this was a pretty effective way to get a nice smooth blend. But particularly for the white, I went super diluted, and I literally applied 20 to 30 layers. And it did two things. It smoothed the blend nicely because wet blending is oftentimes pretty rough. It can be rough in the beginning. And it also bumped up the white's brightness to a pure titanium white eventually. But you need to go super slow because you just get this dusty look too fast where like the white is drying over top of that Arctic blue color and it's not fully covering it and it looks like dust. Or that classic chalkiness, people call it. Mm-hmm. So I went really thin, and I made sure to glaze toward where I wanted to be brightest, clean my brush, and then feather where I started. So it blurs a little bit. And I think I got probably the smoothest white that I've ever been able to achieve on a model to date. But it definitely wasn't easy, and I wouldn't recommend it if you were trying to save time.
Yeah, it's not something you're going to do for painting something for fun or for an army or whatever.
No. No.
It's just if you want the highest level of painting.
That's only one way, but yeah, that's what I'm doing to get my highest level of painting.
That's pretty cool. So when you were doing that, you say you estimate roughly 20 glaze layers of this white.
Yep.
Did you move up or down where you were putting that glaze layer? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Like closer to the pure white or further down, or did you like slowly work it closer to the pure white so you didn't have a stark line?
Maybe the first 10 layers are pretty much just doing the exact same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. To the next 10 layers, I moved it up, and then the final 5, I moved it up again. But it was not as systematic as every single layer I'm moving up 1 micron or something like that. Right. You know? There wasn't that intentionality there. Maybe, in big chunks I would move up.
Yeah. I like that idea. It's something that I always mean to do and don't have good presence of mind to accomplish it often with glazing is glazing, just like doing layers, 2 or 3 are almost always better than 1.
Yeah.
And so if I'm glazing from 3/4 of the way down this sword all the way to the top, I should do that 3 times. And then I go from halfway down the sword all the way to the top, and then 1/4 of the way down the sword, and then to the top. And so there shouldn't be enough to where you create that stark line for doing it 2 to 3 times. Mm-hmm. but there's enough to where you can see more of an impact, as a single glaze is not going to make enough of an impact unless you're just trying to do a slight tint of a new color over an area.
Right.
I like it.
Well, that's all from me.
And that's all from me.
That brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you for spending an hour and a half or so with us, listening to us talk about miniature painting classes, what we think about them, how you can choose which ones that you might have the most fun in and learn the most in. We appreciate your time.
Yes, and we hope that you got some painting done, or some driving done, or some, I don't know, whatever else people would be doing while they're listening. Some pooping done.
Yeah.
You know, be gentle on the amount of squares of TP you use. You don't want to run out mid-podcast. Have to use your phone as ass wipe, or
calling a little help.
Yeah. Yo.
Yeah, wife, I need TP.
Use your sock. So if folks want to support us, there's a couple ways they can do that. And we are very appreciative of any kind of support we get. Anything from sharing what we do, whether that's on, with your friends online or in person, whether it's Facebook, Insta, any other social medias, anything like that. We appreciate the kind words and sharing what we do. You can leave a comment in the description of the video, and the like and thumbs up and subscribe. All those good things help us reach more people.
Absolutely.
There's the thing. You can check out our merchandise. So we have sweatshirts. Those are sweatshirts, not sweaters.
Yes.
Sweatshirts, T-shirts for both men and females. So we can, I guess they're just different cuts.
Yes.
Like a female can wear the men's shirt and the men can wear the female shirt. No one's going to, I don't know, just one accommodates for boobs. I don't know.
Yes.
So we've got those. So that supports us. We also have a Patreon. So Scott, what do they learn about or get from the Patreon?
For $5, you get access to the extended episode of the podcast, which is hearing us talk about our favorite miniatures from other painters that we've discovered in the last 2 weeks. You can get the opportunity to have one of your miniatures live critiqued on the episode, or hear someone else's miniature be critiqued in detail. And you also get to hear about what we learned and experimented with in the past 2 weeks and the results of that experiment. And finally, you also get the opportunity to supply topics for us to discuss in a podcast. So all of that for $5.
And other ramblings. Right? Other things we ramble about. So that's probably another, at average, probably 30 minutes.
Yeah,
oftentimes more than 30 minutes.
John might fart, and then it's funny, and then I laugh.
Yeah, and then he sniffs it.
And I die slowly.
Yes.
So if you want that,
Woo, you know where to find us.
Quality content.
Right. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out for episode 16. If you're listening to this on the Monday it came out, you'll find us again in 2 Mondays. If not, you'll find us again on a certain Monday that either is or is not the next Monday.
Yeah. Yes. That's so accurate.
All right. So until then, we will catch you
on the flippity flop.